because a cop just decided, hey, I'm going to stop and frisk you, but they wouldn't do that to me because I'm a white woman.
That's nice. Well, but anyway.
That's nice. But anyway, back to the actual argument now.
If I say you shouldn't be able to mandate vaccinations, you'd probably argue against the parents' right? Should a school be allowed to mandate vaccines?
It's so obvious, too, that she walked right into it. It's so dumb.
There is a 61 to 98% chance they age out of it and grow up and are happy and fine.
That's made up.
It's literally...
That's made up.
You don't even know anything about that story.
I do.
It was four clips of the episode, and you can see in the images he wasn't even subscribed to the channel.
Yeah, but he watched your show.
She's so fucking insufferably stupid. I cannot stand her, dude. It is hilarious how dumb she is.
My position on what I like about DeSantis, and then you go, your show's for neo-Nazis. It's like, okay, dude, are you stupid?
I'm just stating facts.
Have you ever? Okay, this is like...
I'm just stating facts.
So go live in your grifter echo chamber where you guys can play songs with bad audio and then say, whoopsie. So without further ado, without wasting any of your time, we've got two awesome guests. Sean, do you want to introduce yourself first?
Oh, I'm Sean Fitzgerald. I do YouTube at The Actual Justice Warrior. I cover primarily criminal justice related issues, and I'm happy to be here for your maiden live voyage of the culture war.
And Emma, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Emma Vigeland. I'm the co-host of The Majority Report. Thanks so much, Tim, for having me on. I know that it was a little dicey with you and Sam in terms of him coming on, but I'm happy that you had me on. Honestly.
Absolutely, I'm glad you came.
Yeah, and it's. I just want to clear this up because I know that you didn't want to have Sam on because you called him a grifter, right? Yeah. And part of the reason that you called him that is because you said that we put your song through a filter on our show, and I just want you to know, I was hosting that day. We don't have the technology to do that, so.
Okay, there's so many things. I love that she immediately starts off with the stuff about Tim calling Sam a grifter and saying, I know that you said that because of the music video. What? No, that's not the reason why Tim thinks Sam's a grifter.
So there you go.
Yeah. What are you talking about, Emma? Like, obviously, you could just take your phone and play it on your phone and hold it up to a microphone and it'll sound like shit. You don't have to be like a professional sound engineer to know how to fuck up a song and make it sound bad.
It's like that up for you.
The song. So that specific issue was the song we put out, played on your show, had like the mids ripped out of it.
We don't have the technological ability to do that. We're just
We don't have the technological ability. Yeah, right. Okay. The technological ability. You mean like literally any audio editing software, including free audio editing software. Sure, Emma. Right.
To leftists in with.
We're just so poor. We're barely keeping it together. We're just so broke. Yeah. Humble Emma Vigeland. Hey, Emma, didn't you come from like an incredibly wealthy family? Like, didn't you go to like a $50,000 a year private school when you were a kid? Okay.
Like a soundboard. I promise you nothing was intentional.
You don't have Audacity? It's free.
Well, no, the issue here is likely that
she has no clue what any of that is, Sean, by the way. But I mean, not that it really mattered, but they did obviously intentionally make the song sound bad.
I don't know anything about
if you don't have proper ingestion, then like the audio is going through a TV or something, it's going to sound really bad.
Right.
So if we were to like play music on the TV and then put the mics up to it, everything would be ripped out from it. And then if we were to say, listen how bad this sounds, it's misleading the average person into thinking that's what the song sounds like. When
but I played that. And look, I mean, we're here to have a great discussion, I think. But it's interesting that even though I played it, that was your justification for calling Sam a grifter.
But it's not, though. The issue with Sam...
Like, bro, what is she yapping about? Obviously, that's not the only fucking issue that Tim has with Sam.
Sam was that I put out a tweet where I said... we try to invite people on the left all the time. They always say no. And then Sam tweeted challenge accepted or something to that effect, like I'll come on. And I was like, oh, this is great because, Sam was actually the first person to ever shout me out ever in my career.
Yeah.
Praising me. And so I said, we will cover travel and accommodation. We'll fly you out. We'll take care of it.
Yeah, that must have been like literally the only time he praised you, Tim. But I do think it's funny that as soon as the show starts, she's just like, yeah, thanks for inviting me on. But sorry for like fucking up your song, though. I just think that that's funny.
Everything. Let me know what day works for you. And he said something like the 13th. And I was like, this is fantastic. And then he DM'd me and was like, I'm not coming on your show. And I was
it was because of COVID restrictions. I've seen the DMs. I told him he should put it on. I've told him he should put it on Twitter, but he's too good of a guy. I mean, maybe.
Well, no, I published all the DMs.
Yeah.
Because then what he did was he then, it's mostly water under the bridge, but he made some comment about me backing out or something. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, and then I messaged him. I was like, are you kidding, dude? Like, we're going to pay for everything. And then he was just like, no, I'm not doing it. Are you crazy?
Well, then just do it. Like, I mean, I'm sure he'd be down to come down soon and you guys could actually hash
the issue has expanded more than that. I mean, so at the same time, there was Hassan Piker who also responded to my tweet. And he said, I'd love to come. And I said, when can you come? And he said, let's figure out a date. And so I DM'd him and he said, I got to be honest, I'm actually concerned about COVID. And I said, totally get it. No worries, man. Thanks for reaching out. And that was the end of it. Sam, however, used it on like a video and then started tweeting about it because it was drumming up a whole bunch of clicks and views. And I'm like, okay, dude, I get it. Interacting with this guy is just going to create drama that he uses to get clicks. I mean, the dude's got like 170 videos about Dave Rubin.
Yeah, we do cover that. I mean, I think part of what we do is we try to respond to some of the right-wing ecosystem on the internet because there's a vacuum truly left. You guys have a lot more money than the left-wing media space. We just try to combat it a little bit.
I think that's kind of obviously silly on its face.
I think the issue with that, I can understand why you'd say that, but it looks like this is a great way to kick off the show, actually, like the start of the culture war. I actually don't think whatever this space has more money because this is a fractured independent space of varying ideologies.
Tim, I'm in your compound right now.
Yeah, I'm rich.
I live in a one-bedroom. I mean, how did you get rich?
I started a website, took memberships, sold ads on videos.
Yeah, but the reason that you get ads and that we don't is because you more adequately serve capitalism and we challenge it.
Well, that's just total fucking cope. That's just total cope. I mean, like, no, Emma, your show is garbage and nobody watches it. Despite my problems that I have with Tim Pool, he is actually talented. He is a good business person and he does do a good job of connecting with people and bringing people together and putting on a good show. Your show, on the other hand, Emma, is complete crap. That's the reason why you don't have a lot of money.
We get our ads pulled. What do you mean? There's whole organizations dedicated to getting all of our ads removed.
Right, but the proof is in the pudding and where I'm sitting right now.
But Tim, you have a big house. Tim, don't you get it, bro? Big house means I'm right and you're wrong. Like, bro, Emma, what are you talking about? Are you fucking dumb? What's Sam Cedar's net worth anyway? He's not a millionaire?
So this is memberships. This is almost entirely because people pay to become members of our websites. Like, you know, if the Majority Report, you guys have been around a lot longer than I have. Mm-hmm. The inability to provide a product to a customer does not mean that one political faction has more or is granted more because of capitalism or anything like that. Like if Sam is unable to, I mean, Sam's had way more subscribers than me for a long, long time.
Right.
And he just like hit, and I'm not saying this to be like mean, I'm saying if he doesn't know how to turn revenue, the issue is more so you need like a COO or somebody who's going to say, here's how we provide something to a market that generates revenue so we can expand our business. So we're better at that here, I suppose, is the easy way to put it.
Well, no, because what you say here is more attractive to investors and advertisers. I mean, we're basically only members. And other right-wing media like the Daily Wire and stuff like that. And even what I'm looking at a Rumble, I don't know, what do you call that? Logo right there.
Why did it take her that long to come up with the word logo?
Looks like a rectangle.
I mean, that's a David Sachs. That's a venture capital backed venture, I believe. At the very least, Peter Thiel is involved and invested.
Oh, yeah.
There's no...
So what? Left-wing creators can use Rumble as well, so who cares? What's your point?
Equivalent on the left.
Why wouldn't you be able to get advertisers if like David Pakman and the Young Turks have advertisers? Your content's not like too
We do have advertisers. We just have, advertisers that are a little bit more within our system of values. And we're trying to combat corporate greed. We don't have a ton of advertisers that I think align with leftist, or we have advertisers that we try to include in terms of like leftist values as well. But
this is all just stupid. I mean, your channel is monetized and it's playing the same ads that everyone sees on every other channel. I mean, what are you talking about?
Just by the nature of left versus right, it's asymmetrical warfare. But honestly, Sam should just
you're
put
passing
those DMs
on advertisers that don't align with your values. So like you have
we do
those
the same
options.
thing. We do literally the same. We have like 4 advertisers.
Right.
Like 4.
Right. Okay.
So our website has no advertisers. and it's almost entirely membership funded.
Yeah.
So
I mean, look,
everything here is because people give us $10 a month.
We're really trying to cover politics on our program. And I think that that's what is like our central focus. I mean,
why make a video about me and music?
Well, I mean, it was a little fun because it was kind of funny. But I mean, Sam comes from a comedy background as well. I would say that I think you misrepresent.
I could not believe that Sam was actually a comedian. He's literally never said anything funny before. He is like the least funny comedian I've ever heard of in my life.
What our show actually does. The first hour, the free hour of our program before we go to the membership portion is one that we literally have experts on Social Security, on international politics. It's not, honestly, something that is conducive to, it's dry. It's not conducive necessarily to a ton of capital investment or advertisers. And we're trying to make a difference in the world.
So in other words, my show is really boring and nobody wants to watch it, but I'm angry at you for having a successful show. Okay, cool, Emma. Good point.
We don't have investment or we have like 4 advertisers. Actually, we have 0 advertisers and we got rid of them all. So we ended all of our advertisers. To be fair, on the podcast version of things, I think we have like 6. On the YouTube side of things, we've actually gotten rid of all advertisements. So now it's just like whatever YouTube does, they do.
Right.
And then we're starting our own companies. The reason we started our own coffee company, it's because I'm not going to say the name of this person, but there are organizations that lie in order to get our ads pulled. And so that's happened to us. One example is that there is, I don't get into too much of it, but there's a group that has argued that I have claimed that Donald Trump won in 2020, and they've used that to raise tens of thousands of dollars.
Okay.
I never said Donald Trump won in 2020. In fact, since Joe Biden got inaugurated, I said Trump lost, and these people need to accept it.
Right. Well, you said there might be a race war.
Not even 10 minutes in. Not even 10 minutes in. Like, Emma's got this list in her head of things she's going to bring up in this discussion. And this is number 1. Well, number 1 was the song. And number 2 is apparently this. You know, she has this list of things she wants to bring up during this discussion.
Where's that?
When did I say that?
I'm not sure. But you also said that.
I'm not sure, but let's move on to this other thing. Like, let me just like rattle off these things that I've memorized that I want to bring up to smear you. But if you try to challenge me on any of them, I'm just going to pivot to another thing.
I don't think that's a true thing.
The 10-year-old who got an abortion, who was raped, you call that a hoax. Have you retracted that statement?
So there's very deep context to that. What we're talking about when I say
that's been
hoax.
proven. I mean, charged. The rapist has been charged, and the doctor who provided the abortion fined.
So this is a really good example of the problem in the culture, where I would say, see, you don't know what I actually said, because I didn't say what you're describing.
You did. I just watched it last night.
Right, and so what I said was the fact that
now Tim should have said, well, explain to me what it was that I said exactly, instead of explaining it himself, because then he could have called her out on it, because she clearly actually does not know what the fuck she's talking about.
That they politicized this to win a political point is the hoax, not that the child was abused.
How does that constitute a hoax, Tim?
God damn, Emma's so fucking stupid. If the media is lying about it, the lie would be the hoax, stupid. Like, obviously, if the media is making it seem as if the girl couldn't get the abortion when she could, then that narrative is fake. In other words, it's a hoax. That's all that Tim is saying.
So, like, let's say there's what's a good example of this? Ahmaud Arbery. Ahmaud Arbery is a really great example, right? So here's
No, I'm talking about this example though.
Right. So
oh God, I can't help but laugh at how dumb Emma is. Emma, he's trying to give you an example of something different to try to explain this to you, because you're obviously not understanding it, even though it's a pretty simple thing.
Brought up.
So, right, if I can't explain to you that manipulating a story for political gain is the hoax, then I don't know
what's the manipulation.
Oh man, this is an old story. I have to pull it up. I think the issue was that they were able to actually get the treatment in state, but because of the law, they decided to seek it elsewhere. And I said, that is a hoax. I didn't say that it was a hoax that the girl was abused. I said, if they could have sought treatment in state under the exemption, I think it was Ohio, right? There was an exemption saying in the cases of abuse, the treatments are permitted, but they decided to make a public statement and leave the state anyway. I said, that is a hoax.
It was not a public statement.
That's my point.
No, rape and incest exemptions are non-actionable. This is like well documented with abortion activists. how long do you think it takes to prove a rape or incest case before you're able to use that carve out to actually get an abortion?
Doesn't it depend on how the law is written? Do you have to prove it, or does it have to be alleged?
I mean, first of all,
let me just answer that point real quick so we can clarify the thing on.
Sure.
I never said it was a hoax that the girl was abused. That is incorrect.
But honestly, this is a part and parcel of what you do is you put that kind of statement out there and then you put caveats in to protect yourself.
That is not what fucking Tim is doing here, stupid. You have no clue what you're talking about, Emma.
Like saying that someone manipulating a story for political gain is a hoax.
It's not a manipulation. That is the kind of thing that's going to continue to happen as abortion restrictions happen throughout the country.
It's
a particularly egregious example used to shine light on broader restrictions on abortion in this country. I mean, it's an opinion, but you haven't retracted it. It's false.
It's not false.
What's false? What's the false part? If the girl could get access to the treatment and she chose not to, and the media ran with this as if she couldn't get access to the treatment, then yeah, that's dishonest. That's presenting a dishonest story.
If there is a story and the story is exaggerated or manipulated in an effort to sway people into believing one political faction over the other, you are engaging in a hoax.
I mean, isn't that what you guys do when you post like extreme videos of crime and things like that?
We don't do that. What are you talking about?
I mean, you respond to...
It still wouldn't even be comparable. But so she's moving on to yet another thing. This is the fourth thing that she's memorized. This is her fourth talking point.
Videos that are taken completely out of context, isolated instances.
I don't think you watch the show because that doesn't sound
I mean, I do a little bit.
No, you don't. Because we don't do that.
Yeah. Yes, you do.
Well, that's not true because we don't do that. In fact, one of the points we make specifically is...
You show subway crime to talk about all of these inflated crime numbers. Crime is down in New York City in 2023 by every metric.
Oh no, bringing up crime around Sean Fitzgerald, crime expert guy. Big mistake.
Down compared to what?
Down compared to 2021 and 2022.
Don't change the subject.
No,
you accused us of publishing videos we don't publish.
If it's down in compared to 2021, and there was a giant year-over-year increase from 2020 to 2021, then you're talking about something that's down. It wasn't
giant. It was a small bump from the pandemic.
47%.
She's so fucking full of shit. She doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about. She's just such an idiot. Like there was a huge increase in crime, especially in the cities.
Increase in homicide in the city of New York is not.
That's a 47%, bro. That's like nothing.
A small bump.
Homicides have been on a precipitous decline since the 70s, since the 80s, since the 90s. There was a bump because
that's completely irrelevant to the topic at hand, but okay, cool.
Of desperation in the pandemic, and now
desperation because of the pandemic, right? That's the reason why crime went up. Okay,
it's back down in 2023. So, that's irrefutable.
It's not back down to where it was before the pandemic, though, dingus.
NYPD's own data. That's on all major crimes: murders, rapes, grand larcenies, robberies.
This is an argument I'm often confronted with, and it's actually pretty terrible. So crime is down from the peak for sure, right? In some years in New York City, we had 2,100 murders. I think that's the largest ever in the history of the city of New York. However, my standard it's not as bad as the worst time in the history of the city of New York. When I see murders jump year over year from about 319 to 469.
What do you mean year over year? The 2 years that I just
listed? Over year, as in from...
what do you mean year over year? What do you think he means, Emma? What else could he mean?
2020 to 2021. That would be a year over year increase. That is a dramatic increase, and it's the largest since, I believe, 2010. The greatest year over year increase of all time in the city of New York, by the way. But it's all the way back to 2010 numbers.
It's down.
Yeah, it's down compared to the increase, but it's not down compared to 2019.
This was a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic where people's desperation and their mental health was severely harmed. People were out of...
This is just so fucking dumb. Like the way that these people, the mental gymnastics that these people go through to try to sit there and like justify all of this crime is just wild. It's just so fucking dumb. Like, it's like people's mental health, like get the fuck out of here.
Work. And that kind of desperation leads to more crime. That's the reality of how crime works. Poverty leads to crime.
No.
I would imagine.
Why do you think 25 people got shoved in front of trains last year?
I don't know, dude.
Dude, I don't know.
Well, that's a legitimate question. You're saying that poverty and desperation results in crime. I'm wondering why it is that you've had these homeless guys. They've been predominantly, I think it's almost entirely these homeless guys, shoving people in front of trains. Last year it was 25. And so that is...
So that's a mental health problem. I mean, we do have a mental health problem in this country. We have an issue with not having socialized healthcare.
I think she has to be the worst example of like a brainwashed shit lib that I could think of. I mean, it's just everything she says is just brain rot.
Where people are unable to access healthcare, mental health care in particular, but also every other kind of healthcare. I mean, 28 million uninsured people in this country. That's a massive problem. I mean,
it's less than 10% of the population, stupid.
That's a serious problem.
And it's almost all people who don't need the health care in the first place. That's why they don't bother to do anything about it.
What is your stance on Medicare for all and healthcare?
I'm for universal health care.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Oh, you are? Oh, I don't know anything about your positions about literally anything. I was just told by Sam that you're an evil right-winger, so whoops, I'm surprised about that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we'd have to have some kind of like basic coverage for universal standard, meaning like, if you're having an episode, this is particularly where we bring you in, we help you. If you're broken bones, flu, things that it's like relatively simple and knowledge-based. The challenge with it is that we got limited space, we got limited doctors, but I don't think we can function as a society if we have people just dying in the streets like we do with drug abuse and,
Well, then you should promote housing first policies on your program. Like in Houston, what they did, there was a pilot program under Obama. It was a HUD grant. And they reduced homelessness by 63% over 10 years because they guaranteed housing. Do you think that the 25 examples that you cite last year, and there's like over 2 million subway riders a day. So you cherry picking that, I feel like is...
It's not cherry picking.
Yeah, that wouldn't be cherry picking. That's kind of silly.
You mentioned that desperation leads to crime.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering why it is specifically that we saw this increase. Is it like someone's desperate, but why murder somebody? You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, they're experiencing a mental health episode. We do not have adequate health care in this country, mental health care. I hear a lot of talk often after mass shootings that
Does she think that there's a recent rise in mental health problems? I mean, obviously our country has always had crazy people in it. What makes her think that all of a sudden there's this new problem and our lack of health care is the reason why there are these crimes? Like, what makes her think all that?
Mental health is the most important thing in this country. Then we should have socialized healthcare so everyone can have access to it. And that would...
It's just silly to sit there and say if we had some kind of a universal healthcare system that we just wouldn't have all these problems. I think that that's just silly. Again, it's just cope. I mean, it's just copium to sit there and think that that is going to result in any kind of real significant difference in this regard. It's just silly.
That paired with...
I mean, the majority of these homeless people already have access to a variety of programs to help them get off the streets and to help them with their mental health problems and their drug abuse problems and whatnot. They're just not interested in any of that. They don't want that. They don't want the help. So how do you help people who don't want to be helped?
A housing first policy where cities don't become urban centers for just bridge and tunnelers who want to come in and see a show, or for restaurant associations, where places where people can actually live and there's guaranteed housing for people. If we were able to do that, we would be able to drastically reduce the crime that you guys are talking about.
So when you're talking about poverty leading to crime, like what is that based on? Because after Prohibition was repealed,
all of human history.
During the Great...
All of human history. Like, what a completely pointless and glib answer. All of human history. Yeah, Emma, great. You're doing awesome.
Depression, crime fell. During the Great Recession, people with your line of thinking thought we would see a crime spike nationwide. It didn't happen. You could actually look at the crime wave if you wanted to pull it up. That did.
Right. In other words, recessions really don't correlate with crime spikes. People like Emma think that crime is 100% caused by poverty or a couple of other things, and it's just not at all borne out by the data. It's just silly.
Didn't occur. And that was the largest recession in the history of this country since the Great Depression. So what we've seen throughout American history is poverty not leading to crime. What we actually see is the opposite, that crime drives areas into poverty. We look at store closures across the country due to the fact that we have shoplifting. That leads to decaying in the neighborhoods. When people abandon the neighborhoods and you see this blight, that has a psychological impact on people, and that drives people to commit these crimes.
I mean, you're working backwards from the...
No, you're actually working backwards.
Wait, but no. Poverty, clearly, this is a very simple concept.
It's a very simple concept that shitlibs continue to regurgitate. It's also completely wrong.
To something like shoplifting. Why would someone shoplift based on a personal pathology?
That's personal pathology. It's a big word, Emma. That's great. Yeah, They steal because they want free shit, Emma. They use the money to go and buy drugs or whatever dumb, stupid thing. Like, what do you mean?
They're shoplifting because they're desperate.
Not necessarily.
No, very, very few people are stealing because they're desperate. Again, we have all of these programs in our society to help poor people, and that's good. I'm glad that we have them. But again, like if anything, the programs do the opposite of justifying, this kind of behavior. If anything, stealing and whatnot is even more unjustifiable, knowing that these people have access to these programs. She's making it seem as if people are stealing like a loaf of bread to feed their families. Like, no, dude, they're stealing big screen TVs and shit like that and selling them to go and buy drugs. That's what most of them are doing.
Necessarily. So we have a lot of lax shoplifting laws in California, for example.
So they're
and
doing
what
it
they
just
find
for
is
fun?
we have a lot of organized retail theft because there's no consequences for it.
That's profit.
For instance,
People are trying to make money.
Well, so
they're
Yeah.
desperate, and we have
No.
untold levels of income inequality in this country.
Well, is it income inequality or poverty?
Since the late 70s, 900%. That's the increase in CEO pay versus 12% for the working class in this country. You don't think
That's completely irrelevant.
that leads to levels of desperation?
No, not in and of itself, it wouldn't.
So wait.
Oh, God, she's so dumb. Holy fuck. We don't really see the correlation behind income inequality and crime. Because if what you're saying is true, then middle class incomes marginally growing would result in a decrease in crime. But we didn't actually see that. We saw crime go all over the place, completely uncorrelated to what you're saying.
Is income inequality the cause or is poverty the cause? Because those are two different things.
They go hand in hand.
They really don't.
Yes, they do.
No, not necessarily.
Because all
Not
the
at
wealth
all.
is going towards the CEOs and to the billionaires in this country.
But it's not
and
a zero-sum
trickling
economy.
down.
But what
I don't know.
is it?
But also,
I don't know what that means. I don't even know.
So if income inequality is the driver of crime, then how come we saw a giant crime decline after the mid-90s when income inequality was going up? In fact, we saw this happen all the way to 2019.
Can you repeat that?
We had a giant crime decline from around 1995, 1996 nationwide from all the way to 2019 while income inequality was rising during that period of time.
Right.
So why would...
Right? Yeah. Well, that would be in contradiction to what you just said, Emma. Does that need to be explained to you?
that occur if income inequality is driving crime?
I'm not exactly sure you're the expert, but I
She's so fucking dumb.
do know that you're saying that there was an increase in crime in 2021 and 2022, and it doesn't.
No, he didn't say that. He's saying that crime went up a lot in 2020 and marginally went down in 2021 and 2022, but it's still not back to its baseline of before 2020. That's all he's saying, stupid.
matter now
know
that
if
it's
you can
going
see
back
this.
down to 2023 levels.
This is just New York
I can't
City.
see this. Yeah.
I just pulled up New York City.
Look at that. Right. Exactly.
So in the
Yeah, exactly. That what? Exactly what, Emma? How in the fuck did you look at this graph and think that this graph reaffirmed anything that you said in this discussion?
at the start of 1990, crime was at its highest and it dropped rather massively
Yes.
into just before 2000, where it continued to decline. And then from 2019 into 2020, we see a huge increase. That's pre-pandemic. So there's a couple interesting things to point out there.
No, to be clear, that's not
Also,
that's not pre-pandemic. That's the year-over-year increase. So it would be in the year 2020. To be clear, so 2019 would be the low number.
The increase actually the draw is before 2020, meaning that could be 2018 to 19. Then, if that's the point you're making.
No, it's I've seen these numbers. I'm telling you, you're reading this chart wrong because in New York City, do they have the raw number of homicides on the side? If you track it, you have around
this is just
because this is just murders right here.
Right.
You have about 300, and then it jumps to about 469.
I mean, crime dropped everywhere throughout the country since lead gasoline was outlawed.
Oh, God. It just keeps getting fucking dumber. Every dumb shit lib talking point about crime. Absolutely brutal.
There is a massive connection, lead paint, lead gasoline predominantly affecting poor and lower income people, which probably did contribute to some of the increase in volatility in that.
It's just correlation causation fallacy.
I agree. I completely agree. I read that report. It was fascinating that when we started taking lead out of the atmosphere, crime started to drop. But that would also make the argument that it's not poverty driving crime. It was like chemical imbalance or something.
It's both. It's absolutely both.
Well, I think it would play a role. Like the lead would play a role because it was in gasoline, so it was in the air. Yeah, so it's impacting everyone.
It depresses brain function and things like that.
True. Yeah. But I think public policy has a huge impact as well because, again, we saw a dramatic crime. This crime wave started in the 1960s, right? And this is when we started embracing this idea that poverty was the root cause of crime, that this was more the realm of the social workers, all things that sound really familiar to today. And from 1960 all the way to 1979, the incarceration rate, even though in raw numbers it was rising, was dropping per capita. So we saw this crime increase, and what you would end up getting in 1979 for murder on average was something like 5 years. For rape, it was something like 3.4 years. And obviously, like, this created a problem because we just weren't prosecuting people. This is why we ended up going with the mass incarceration solution, which, by the way, did work. And all these other policies to get tough on crime. You laugh, but you're definitely
No, I mean,
wrong.
mass incarceration, we incarcerate more people than any other country.
We have the highest rate.
So what? We have more crime than those countries have, yeah? See, this is like the sophistication of the lefty brain. Our country has crime. Our country incarcerates a lot of people. Other countries don't have as much crime. They don't incarcerate as many people. Therefore, the lack of incarceration in these other countries is why they have less crime. It's like, Emma, you're an idiot. You're just a complete buffoon.
Rate of violent crime for any modern Western country.
I mean, I don't have that statistic in front of me, but we...
Really? You don't think that our country has more crime than other Western countries, Emma? Are you fucking dumb?
So how does that connect to the mass incarceration point? If it worked, then what does the violent crime rate have to do with it? You just want to warehouse more people?
What? He's just saying that in the 90s, they passed a bill that resulted in the decrease of crime when a whole bunch of resources were allocated to fight crime, Emma. That's all he's saying. That when crime was taken more seriously and we incarcerated more people, crime dropped afterwards, which is true.
No, I didn't say, when I say it worked, we started expanding the prison population seriously in the 1980s to the 1990s. If you go to the Brennan Center for Criminal Justice, which is a left-wing organization, they say...
I like how Emma had to get her dumb little, it is, I know a thing, I know that thing.
Post the year 2000, mass incarceration lost its effectiveness. But most of the mass incarceration was pre the year 2000. So obviously it had some impact, and it ranges. Low estimates are about 6% on the crime rate, which is very low, but the high estimates are about 30%. And the reason it worked is because the philosophy behind mass incarceration is pretty simple. What you're trying to do is incapacitate criminals, because the same criminals are often reoffending. You brought up shoplifting earlier. You can actually pull up an article to find out that the same 300 people in New York City represent a third of the shoplifting arrests total for a single year.
Probably because
This
they're
is because they're
incredibly
repeat
impoverished and they need to find a way to actually sustain their livelihoods in this country.
That's just so dumb. I mean, is there any crime that you won't sit there and defend? I mean, obviously these people are stealing. They're responsible for a third of all the shoplifting. And it's only a couple hundred people in a city of, 10 million? Like, obviously they're just greedy motherfuckers that are stealing and taking advantage of a justice system that just simply doesn't take them very seriously.
Country. That's
put a very good way. That's phrased very well, to maintain their livelihoods.
Well, no, I mean, no, their life is a better way to maintain.
Sure. But like, I guess my point is, some of them certainly are desperate. But when you see videos of a guy like shoveling stuff into a garbage bag, that's not desperation.
But again, this is what you do, Tim. You return to anecdotal examples when I'm trying to talk about...
Yeah, anecdotal examples, meaning he just brought up a statistic about it. And also we've seen probably hundreds, if not thousands, of CCTV surveillance footage of people doing this. Yeah, but it's just like a couple anecdotes.
Talking about just the 300 people.
And I am talking
which is the anecdotal evidence.
What 300 people?
He said the same 300 people.
Are you not paying attention to the debate that you're in right now, Emma?
I mean, the crime, I said, right.
A third of the shoplifting arrests in New York
These specific individuals are doing it for profit.
Okay, so we should have a system of mass incarceration because there are 300.
I didn't say that.
Because I'm talking to you now. There are 300 repeat offenders.
No, stupid. He's just saying that crime should be taken more seriously. If you let people commit these crimes, you're just going to see more and more of the same crime. That's all he's saying. It's not that complicated of a fucking thing.
No, we should incapacitate repeat offenders so they stop offending.
Got it. So this is all about the fact that you're not in favor of bail reform because in New York State, which is now currently being rolled back, we decided that we weren't going to require cash bail for nonviolent felonies and for misdemeanors. And you think that that's a good policy?
I mean, first of all, he didn't bring that up. You're bringing that up now. But yeah, it probably isn't a good policy to just let people out, even if they didn't commit a violent crime. So what? Again, if they're caught just shoving shit into a garbage bag, and running out of a store, then yeah, they probably shouldn't be let out on bail or whatever. They probably should be in jail. Like, so what? Why is that a big problem?
To not require cash bail?
Yeah.
No.
That we're rolling it back.
I think look, if you're concerned about people not being able to get out of jail because of their financial means, then I can understand reducing or even eliminating the cash bail system. Because I understand if you don't have a lot of money, even though you really only have to throw down 10% for bail in most cases, unless it's like a set figure for the bond, then I get that argument. But what you need, and the state of New York desperately needs this, is some kind of threat assessment. Like, you should be able to hold somebody if they present themselves as a danger or a repeat offender, regardless of bail, without bail, so that they don't continue to reoffend.
Okay, but do you know what happens when people are held in Rikers, for example, in a pre-detention center? How many deaths have happened there before they're even convicted of a crime?
Look, they're
completely irrelevant. What does one thing have to do with the other thing? Prisons can have problems that we can work on without actually just not holding people in prisons. Like, this is dumb. This is just dumb.
Again, that's an issue for how the jailing system works in New York City. And I am in favor of building out the jail capacity because
you're talking about cash bail, though. That is exactly the point that we're discussing here.
Yeah.
No,
right.
Obviously we can fix whatever problems are going on in the prisons that are resulting in these deaths in Rikers without engaging in what you're talking about, which is basically to have a justice system where there are very few repercussions for committing crimes, which is obviously absurd and it's not going to work.
Right. So you're in favor of people being held before they're convicted of a crime.
Yes.
In Rikers.
If they show a propensity to reoffend, 100%.
What is a propensity to reoffend?
A history, like being arrested over and over again, prior convictions, yes.
So you think that they should be held in a prison that has been...
It's a jail, but yes.
Or jail, excuse me. A jail that has been proven to be one of the worst conditions in the country.
Well, it doesn't have to be specifically Rikers Island.
Dozens of deaths just this year, even if they haven't been convicted of a crime.
Convicted of a crime. Yeah, for sure.
But
that's very anti-constitutional and anti-democratic.
How is it anti-constitutional?
So dumb. Just so dumb.
The Fourth Amendment. It violates the Fourth Amendment.
Protects you from illegal search and seizures.
Well, I mean, you are... It's the right to a speedy trial. People are held under, Fifth Amendment, yes.
I do think we...
No, not that one either.
Should have reform on the speedy trial side, but the idea that it's unconstitutional to hold somebody pre-trial is ridiculous. Our law is based on English common law.
6, damn.
6, yeah, Emma, you're so bright. You totally know a lot of things.
6, yeah, we're all bad. Our law is based on English common law, and the reason we have jails is that you would actually be held in a dungeon awaiting trial. So it's like built into the system. Bail is like a courtesy. It's actually a progressive reform in response to that, where you lay down some kind of capital in place of yourself.
How much money do you want to spend on jails in New York City?
As much.
So she's moved on from pointing out the ridiculous argument about bail being unconstitutional, which was absurd, and then she moved on to another thing. And she just keeps doing this topic change over and over and over again because everything she says is just absurd.
As it takes.
So just warehousing people before they're convicted of anything.
Well,
oh my God. Yes, separating people from society after they've allegedly committed a crime is called putting them in jail. Yeah, that's a thing that we do. Yes, that's not anything new. Emma, what's your point?
Again, it's not warehousing everybody, but if you have a propensity to reoffend, I think judges should be able to have judgment. It's kind of in the name, and assess these people and hold them.
So you just want to give it to the judgment of the judges, and it doesn't...
Yes, I would like the judges to have judgment, yes.
Okay, but there should be guardrails in place to prevent judges from... I mean, judges are human beings. They can be unjust as well. I don't really put them on the pedestal that you do.
Obviously, I'm not in favor of like $1 million bond for somebody who's arrested for shoplifting, even if they're arrested 27 times. So yeah, you can have guardrails from the legislature, but they can't assess dangerousness right now in the state of New York.
They assess it in ways, the reason we put this law into place, which is now being rolled back, that were deemed inherently racist. They deem that...
No.
It was disproportionately black and brown people who are warehouse.
Okay, but how's that racist?
Yeah, so it's basically racism of the gaps. There's a policy in place. It disproportionately affects black people. Therefore, that's racist.
So.
Because at their discretion, it was implemented in a racist way. It's
but
the
if you
same
look
way
at the
that
crime statistics,
she's just begging the question. It was a thing that at their discretion was implemented in a racist way. It's like, but how? Like, you're just begging the question.
There you go. So this is what the reality is for you: is you believe that black and Hispanic people inherently are committing.
When did I say?
There you go. This is the reality for you. For you, the reality is that black people inherently commit more crime. It's like, okay.
Crimes. I mean,
if you pull up like NYPD crime data, for instance, since you brought up stop and frisk, you can look at the shootings, like the shooting suspects in any given year. And if you find me a year where 92% or greater is not Black or Hispanic in terms of the shooting suspects, then I mean, I would be shocked because I've looked at it for the past 20 years.
So
yes,
that's
suspects.
The suspects. Oh, yeah. So the suspects. Therefore, the evil racist cops are just slapping handcuffs on Black people left and right. That doesn't mean anything. They're just the suspects. But in reality, Black people aren't committing any crime in New York City.
Discretion. So
It's you get a report,
right,
and you get a description of the suspect. And they are 92%.
See, Emma's so stupid. Like, she thinks that it's actually like the police that are making these victim reports. She's so dumb.
Under Bloomberg, 90% of the stop and frisks that were done were, by the way, they didn't find anything, but 90% targeted Black and brown people. So you're taking...
So the highest number, by the way, is 86%, not 90%, but go ahead.
You're taking the data and using what the cops did where they over-police in certain areas and then pretending like there's an overrepresentation inherently, criminally, in those kinds of populations. And it's a racist argument.
So you're wrong in a bunch of different ways. So let me just run through them. So first and foremost, the highest year was 86%. And that was the year with the dramatic increase in stops. And if you ask me if I'm in favor of just expanding stop and frisk, which is different from Giuliani's stop, question, and frisk, although, you might not be interested in that specific difference, to the levels that Bloomberg did, I would say it's unnecessary. It aggravates people. It creates a whole bunch of problems. That being said, they're not over-targeted because, again, there is no year during the entire tenure of Bloomberg where the shooting suspects were any less than 92%. So what the NYPD does, because it's the most data-driven police force in the entire world, is they map crime through a system called CompStat. When there's a lot of shootings in a specific area, they send the police to those areas. The stops, questions, and frisks all relate to where the shootings are, and it just so happens to be those areas are Black or Hispanic.
Right, but do you get accosted on the street by cops regularly in New York City?
I have.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to constantly just interrupt with me laughing, but it is comical to me how absolutely insanely stupid her arguments are. She hears all of that, and her response to hearing all of that is, yeah, but do you get harassed by the cops? What an absolute fucking buffoon.
To me when I was younger, yes, but not now.
But do you understand
But to your point about hit rate, because you brought it up, hit rate was not the goal of stop, question, and frisk. This is one of the things where you're this program didn't work because my standard that I look for arbitrarily shows that it was ineffective. That's like saying a plane doesn't work because it's not a good submarine.
No, it's not
that doesn't
arbitrary.
Make any sense.
90% of the stop and frisk came up with nothing.
True, but the point was
cool, but that means 10% of them did take, drugs and weapons and criminals off the street though, Emma.
To deter the carrying of firearms.
Have you done illegal drugs in your life?
Who cares, Emma? You fucking idiot. Let's talk about you personally. Let's not. Let's talk about the data. Let's talk about the argument.
Maybe
I have. I could have been stopped and frisked, and I could have gone to prison, or I could have been held if I had a little bit less money.
But I have all that white privilege that protects me. Yay, white privilege.
Rikers indefinitely.
Really, if anything, you have the protection of being a woman. It's really more like a sex privilege than it is a racial privilege anyway.
Until my trial came, because a cop just decided, hey, I'm going to stop and frisk you, but they wouldn't do that to me because I'm a white woman.
That's nice, but anyway.
That's nice, but anyway, back to the actual argument now.
It's about shootings, and the point of the program, and this is stated quite literally, to deter people from carrying illegal firearms.
And absolutely not.
It 100% is.
Yeah, it's just not though, Sean. Don't you get it? You're just wrong, and I'm just right. I'm Emma Vigeland.
Are you in favor of gun control?
This is what I'm trying to say.
I'm a New Yorker, so I'm not a big gun guy, but
this is my point.
Target guns, and that's why.
You definitely got to target illegal guns.
I'm going to agree with Emma, but Emma's not going to agree with.
Yeah, she's presenting this argument as if these things are mutually exclusive, but obviously they're not.
The idea that the police can decide to arbitrarily stop people because they might be carrying a firearm violates the Second and Fourth Amendments.
Well, again,
stop and frisk is completely unconstitutional.
That's why Fourth Amendment was in my mind.
Well, again, it's you're supposed to stop, question, and frisk, and usually it's based on reasonable suspicion, and they're supposed to.
I'm bearing arms. They're supposed
to. They're supposed to follow the Terry standard.
This idea that because a particular group of people may be carrying guns, we're going to go start stopping a whole bunch of them. I'm like, the Constitution protects our right to keep and bear arms in the first place. So now you're violating, you're ignoring the Second Amendment and using that and by ignoring it, now you're violating the Fourth Amendment. I mean, this is absolutely.
Well, this is why I'm actually critical of Bloomberg's expansion of the program, because the way it used to work is that if you had a shooting suspect, you would have a description, you'd send cops to the area, and they would stop people with that description, ask them questions. And if there was reasonable suspicion, they would conduct a search. This is why under Giuliani, the maximum amount of stops in a year in, New York City of 8.5 million people was 90,000 people. And under Bloomberg, it was something like 700,000, maybe 800,000 people. So he dramatically expanded the program to the point where I do think it was constitutionally violative.
So you are kind of to the right of Donald Trump on this, who has been releasing nonviolent offenders.
Donald Trump's First Step Act is absolutely terrible. It sets up a bunch of incentives.
Well, I mean, you're further right than I'd imagine a ton of this audience is. I mean, that's fine. That's
like, I'm not here
that's
to.
Extremist.
It's not extremist, you fucking idiot. To be opposed to the First Step Act makes you extremist, but he's not really here to like rub the balls of Tim Pool's audience. He's here to make an argument and prove a point.
I'm not here to win over the audience. Well, I will win over the audience because I'm correct, but
our audience is mostly moderates.
But Donald Trump's First Step Act had a lot of language about going soft on youthful offenders, and that's one of the reasons why a huge portion of the increase in homicide that we're seeing is among young men, and specifically among young black men in this country.
I want to bring your guys' attention to this chart, because there's a lot that it shows. I know it's just murders,
right?
But we're talking about, you mentioned something about the 60s. For some reason, in 1962 to 64, we start seeing, from 1962 onward, a ridiculous spike in the murder rate, offenses per 100,000 population. I don't know exactly why. We can see around 1990, it starts to decline rapidly. There's a couple interesting points there. This is U.S. murder rate. So New York City's broken window policing has nothing to do with it. This is the entirety of the country. Mm-hmm. This could be one of two things. We when the leaded gasoline, that was the 80s, right?
I believe so, yeah.
We were getting rid of it.
And the last truck, I think for trucks, it was the 90s.
But this also coincides with one of the, if not the largest economic expansion, or I shouldn't say that now, because who knows how you define it with the pandemic and all that stuff. But we had a massive economic boom in the 90s. So this would interestingly correlate with the idea that as people started to get more things, like their lives started to improve, crime, murder rates started to drop dramatically.
Yeah, and I would say that that was a temporary kind of sugar high based on neoliberal policies of Reagan and Clinton, where there was a lot of money that was released back into the public because of massive tax cuts. I mean, we can talk about confiscatory taxation if you'd like, and the top marginal tax rate.
Yeah, let's not, though. Well, let's not talk about that. Let's talk about something that's actually interesting, Emma.
Top marginal tax rate in 1961. It's funny that you brought up that.
What in the fuck does any of that have to do with the murder rate going up? Like, what in the fuck are you talking about, Emma? Because of Reagan's tax cuts, Reagan was in the 80s. I don't even fucking know what the fuck she's yapping about, man.
That figure, 1960, is 91% compared to 37% now. But it
went down in the 60s?
Reagan cut a bunch of taxes during that time period, and a lot of people got an influx in cash.
Crime
and then
did drop.
Sorry?
Crime did drop.
Well, right, but that was temporary. Right. And then the income inequality kind of set in.
She has this like ridiculous position where she uses like her confirmation bias to work her way backwards to try to explain a chart away like this. Well, there was an increase in corporate greed here. There was an increase in blah, 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 blah here. The tax cuts was a sugar high. And then this other thing happened, and now income inequality sets in. So crime goes back up. Like, Emma, are you fucking kidding me? Shut up.
Well, there is a chart, by the way, that you can look at, because that actually pairs recessions with this murder chart. And again, the correlation is not really there. And as far as New York, you say that it had nothing to do with broken windows policing.
That map specifically was the U.S.
So I know. But you said it had nothing to do with broken windows policing. But that assumes that there isn't a greater decrease in crime in New York than nationwide, which is not the case. There was a greater decrease in the city of New York. Like, Chicago had a decline too, but Chicago's homicide rate, which is almost on par with the city of New York, is 6 times higher per capita than the city of New York. And in terms of raw numbers, it's double, even though they're at a third of the population, which is the same thing that I just said with different math. So New York became the safest big city, and our crime rate actually declined. And in fact, Freakonomics actually attributes this to the legalization of abortion, which happened in the city of New York pre Roe versus Wade. It was one of the 6 states that had it legal electively. So this is like a known thing that people have talked about and speculated on what the result is. Now, also for the environmental
Wait, can I just ask you a question about that?
Sure.
What does the connection to what does crime
That's what
have?
Freakonomics says, that the legalization of abortion, and they compare it to Ceausescu, whatever country he was the dictator of. They say that correlates with crime because they say all these unwanted children end up being born and then they end up committing
Well, that
crime.
is certainly a claim. So that's how.
Okay, so many things to say there. First of all, how in the world has she never heard of that before? That is fucking wild to me. That a serious, and I put that in quotation marks, like political pundit has never heard of that before. And secondly, I love how quickly she is to jump on this talking point that she has just now discovered for the first time ever. That is hilarious to me.
That works together then. You're saying that abortion should be illegal for that reason?
What in the fuck? What in the flying fuck is she talking about, man? Like, obviously, he's saying that abortion laws would restrict the numbers of abortions, which would mean that there would be fewer people who are being born in less than ideal circumstances, which obviously would then lead to there being less crime, which is the theory.
Saying that abortion should be illegal for that reason?
No. It would be legal abortion leads to less unwanted children being born. And again, you're
So are you
smiling,
in favor
but
of abortion?
I'm actually pro-choice,
It
but
doesn't matter, Emma. Like, stop asking him personal questions. Like, just sit there and debate the fucking point.
not
Okay.
for this reason. But you're smiling. But the thing is, this is what was proposed in Freakonomics. I actually disagree with their analysis. They leave
Yeah, a lot of people dispute whether that's even true or not.
a lot of things out. But
So you're
again,
saying-
I use that as an example to show that the New York decline did start before the national
You're just-
decline.
just to
I'm almost
clarify real
positive that study has been called into question.
It is.
multiple
It is.
times.
Just to
100%.
clarify, you're saying more abortions meant lower crime? Is that what you're saying?
That's what Freakonomics asserted. It's in their little movie and it's in their original book.
I think that makes sense. If you've got
I guess Tim Pool has not heard of it either, which is not that surprising to me, to be honest.
I'm in favor of parental rights, right? Like, I want parents to be able to, if their child is transitioning, to be able to work with their doctor with a plan and make sure that children are not being driven to suicidal ideation and that parents aren't restricted by the state from...
let's talk about what about
Yeah, but what if the parents don't want to transition the child, but the child does want to transition, Emma? What's your position then?
policies.
from
in particular.
okay, go ahead. I don't want parents to be restricted from the state from giving healthcare to their children.
If I open this book
Yeah.
on YouTube, the stream will get taken down.
Okay.
Did you ever read this book?
No.
This book is in middle schools in Florida. Ron DeSantis had it removed. That's one simple policy he did. That's very good. You've never seen this book?
I've heard about it.
Have you ever looked inside of it?
No, but I mean, I don't believe in censorship.
If I
so
show you a
don't
picture of
believe
a
in
blowjob-
Yes, you do. Yeah, you believe in censorship.
God, would you be offended?
I mean,
Can I show you a picture of a blowjob
I
on
won't. I
camera?
wouldn't be offended. I mean, I think
Disavow.
that honestly, do you know, Tim, that the more children learn about sexual education in the way that's productive and done in schools, the less likely they are to be sexually abused because they know what is good and what
I
is
can't show
bad.
this image on YouTube.
Do you hear me though about that?
So I
The
think
more
I
children
think the issue
learn
is
about sexual education, the less likely they are to be victims of pedophilia and rape.
I think
I like the argument here of they need to have access to what is obviously like disgusting pornographic material, or else they're more likely to be abused by adults. It's like one thing does not lead to the other thing. There's no connection between these two things, Emma.
the issue is you're confusing sexual education with kink. Right? So I'm looking at this right now. I can't even hold it up because I can't point it at the camera. And I don't understand why school children should be taught how to perform blowjobs for an autoandrophile.
I don't believe they're being taught that.
Why was this book in-
banned?
why was this
I
book
don't.
in
I
grade
don't
school?
really know. Again,
Amazon
because
said-
this is
right,
another
so-
case by case example.
No. You
where
asked
I
me
am
about
not
what
in
Ron
favor of
DeSantis
censorship.
did. You asked
I
me
am-
what Ron DeSantis did that I liked.
that he
Here's
banned genderqueer.
that he's removing pornographic and kink books from middle schools is a very, very good one. And I would.
Well, for me, my politics are a little broader than that, Tim. I got to say.
So, listen, if your argument to me is that I or anyone else should support your politics because you want to show blowjobs to children, you're going to lose.
Well, I don't think that is a policy done by teachers in this country. I think that this
book was in schools in Florida,
there
which
are
is
a ton of books that are in a ton of schools. I don't believe.
I wonder how she feels about like the N-word being in classic American literature, Huckleberry Finn and Grapes of Wrath and stuff like that. Should we censor those books? Because a lot of shit libs think we should.
Even censorship. That's not my bag, buddy.
So you think children should have Playboy?
That's not my bag, buddy. Was he like Austin Powers all of a sudden? That's not my bag, baby. The Swedish made penis enlarger, not my bag, baby.
I don't really think so. No, because that's pornography.
So you think
Tim,
a blowjob?
You're in favor of censorship.
Yes. When it comes to children and pornography, yeah, I think pretty much everyone is.
Yes,
you
absolutely.
Oh, that's good to know.
If you watched the show, you'd know this.
Oh, you're okay. You're
we
pro
talk
censorship.
about
I am not. I want children to be able to have all the information that they need in order to
including pornography.
No, that's not pornography.
You're the one arguing for.
You're the one arguing for censorship.
Yes.
I don't really mind that stuff. I mean, are you in favor of children seeing violence on television?
No.
That scares me a little bit more.
It depends. It's not so simple to say violence, right? But yes, censorship is a good thing, but when done bad is a bad thing.
Yeah.
For instance, Ian Crossland, who is a co-host on Timcast IRL, used to be a moderator for Minds.com, and he had to filter out graphic depictions of murder and rape and child abuse. Censorship is absolutely vital in that regard. So if we're talking about a book like, in particular, there was one called, there's a teacher who provided a book to her middle schoolers called This Book is Gay. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
I have heard. That's actually a very good book.
And it provides instruction on children. She provided instruction to children on how to use adult gay anonymous sex apps. Yeah, I don't think that's appropriate. Now, look, by all
Emma's like, yeah, that's a really good book. Like, did you actually read it, Emma, or are you just saying it's a good book because other shit libs told you it's a good book?
Means you can be in favor of it.
Maybe she had a child. Maybe she had a child in her classroom
who wanted to go on Grindr and have sex with adults. Is that your argument?
No, I mean, I'm not saying that. First of all, I don't.
Well, what are you saying?
No, again, this is
why would a 10-year-old need Grindr?
This is the thing that you do, though, Tim.
The thing that you do, Tim. This is the thing that you do. If you just say that enough times, then you win the debate, Emma.
Oh, that I do.
You're picking specific examples that are inflammatory.
You asked me for one.
Okay, then go ahead. I did.
We have the book.
Yeah, I
said don't show children blowjobs. You said you appreciate it.
I'm not in favor of censorship.
As an objective observer that's sitting here, you asked for a specific example, he gave it to you, and then you try to say he's broadly in favor of censorship.
Yeah.
It's possibly to make a hypocrisy point later on when he complains about social media censorship or something like that.
Yeah, it's kind of obvious that you're trying to set him up or something like that. Yeah, Sean's right about that. You're going to be like, oh, you're pro-censorship. Interesting. Well, are you pro this thing? You know, like you kind of did earlier with the gun control thing with Sean. Oh, you're in favor of stop and frisk. Are you in favor of gun control? Gotcha. Very, very cringe and lame.
No,
but it's like he's talking about this specific issue. And I remember I was working on an education series about this kind of thing years before it was popular. Yes, I was ahead of my time. And yeah, these kind of things were popping up all over schools. And I am happy that DeSantis is like doing something.
We had Asra Nomani on the show. She brought in, I think, like 70 books of all of the weird racist indoctrination and sex stuff that they're bringing in schools.
Yeah.
And I said, look, man, it's really simple for me. If someone comes to me and says that they think this book, which Amazon says is 18 up only, should be given to children, I'll say, I will vote against you.
So should the Bible be banned from schools because it depicts sexual acts?
From schools. Public schools.
It's not in schools, stupid. Did you just now figure out what like the separation of church and state is, Emma? It's not in schools. You're just dumb. Why would you even fucking bring that up unless you're stupid?
The Bible probably is not appropriate for children for a lot of reasons. And I am not a Christian, so I don't particularly care about whether or not they're going to give a book to children that has something like Deuteronomy 23:20 in it. I don't think kids should be reading that kind of stuff.
Okay.
However, I'm in favor of the parents deciding when it is appropriate for their kids, which comes with very difficult moral questions in that my morality is different from the morality of each individual parent. So that's why I'm kind of like, the government probably shouldn't be the one doing it.
Have you had an expert on sexual education on your program to talk about this kind of stuff?
Yes.
What did they say?
She was really hoping he was going to say no there. Oof. Really, really hoping. She had her fingers and her toes crossed on that one.
Okay. And are you in favor of abstinence only?
No. It's been a very, very long time.
You're not in favor of abstinence only education.
I think abstinence only is.
So silly. You're kind of hinging on this book that has pornographic material in it that like okay.
There's a difference between sex and kink. Right?
Okay, sure.
So the many individuals on the left have made arguments in favor of kink for kids, which is weird to me, and I think is inappropriate. I think kids should learn about sex. I think the parents should decide when it's appropriate. This is why typically at schools they would give out notice to the parents like, we're intending on doing sex ed. Here's the subjects we're going to cover.
Nothing's changed.
The issue
that way.
with Florida was that they had a policy where they would not instruct parents and actually were told not to talk to the parents if the kids were suffering identity issues. Now, the state should not intervene and take away the rights of the parents in that in that way.
Can you say that again? That the state, what about gender identity issues?
So in Florida, what prompts a bill like this, and it also happened with stuff in like Nashville, was that the schools, and I think they do this in like Washington and Colorado, the schools were actually telling teachers not to talk to the parents if the children were having some kind of identity issue. And so this led to suicides.
No. What leads to suicides is that children are being told that they cannot operate and be who they are as the gender that is who they are in their heart. That's what's leading to suicides.
I'm talking about one specific. Well, I think it's like
again, you're talking about one specific example. I'm talking about
you
broader.
can't ask me for like.
I talk about politics, Tim. I don't talk about anecdotes.
Well, he's talking about policy that they would not.
You asked me what policy was.
I'm talking about school district policy. I cover national
you asked
politics.
Me too.
Yeah. All right.
You can't ask me a question. Then when I explain where the policy came from, be like, no, that makes no sense.
You go into individual anecdotes.
I'm telling you why the policy was written.
Okay. That's not what an anecdote means, Emma, you fucking dipshit. Like, he has engaged in anecdotes throughout this discussion. Yeah, I'll give you that. When you ask him about a specific thing and he gives you an example of a policy and you're like, well, that's just an anecdote. It's like, okay, no, it's not. It's silly.
Go ahead, Tim.
That's why the policy was written, because there were children who were having identity issues and the schools were instructed, the teachers were told not to tell the parents. This led to, I think it was a suicide attempt. The parents got angry.
Who had a suicide attempt?
A little girl tried to kill herself.
Okay, again, this is one case. Go ahead.
And there was also another, right. I'm not talking about, look at this anecdote, let's set policy. I'm saying Florida set a law because, okay? I'm not saying I agree or disagree. I'm saying a thing led to a thing, right? Mm-hmm. My position is that parents should be fully informed about what's going on with their children and teachers should not withhold that information from them. It is not up to the state to decide what is best for the kid. There are certain exceptions.
But the state is deciding what is best for the kid in these instances. They are essentially saying that children, take Florida, for example. You're talking about Florida. Let's talk about it. They're saying that children cannot, under the supervision of their doctor and with their parental consent. None of this happens, by the way, without parental consent. It's illegal. They cannot work with their doctor on a healthcare plan for them to transition into their gender.
I'm not talking about that. I mean, you're talking about medical intervention. I'm talking about
but you have spoken about this on your program before.
Yeah, I think like if a doctor prescribed a lobotomy to a kid, the government should stop that.
It's not a lobotomy. That's not what it is.
I'm saying that there are certain things in the medical world that we've prohibited.
Right, but this is not what should. But the American Journal.
You disagree? You think it shouldn't be?
No,
I'm not arguing you're
every
wrong.
single expert that is reputable on this front disagrees. The American Journal of Pediatrics did a study about transitioning children. They studied them over 5 years. 94% of the children continued to identify as the gender that they were choosing to identify with at the beginning.
For 5 whole years?
Yeah,
wow.
yes.
When placed on Lupron.
So this is another moment too. The look on Emma's face is too funny. You know, all these countries throughout Europe have since backed off from these policies because they found that they weren't actually good for children in the long run. So I mean, it's kind of dismissive for Emma to just be like, well, there's a study that reaffirms my position. Like, well, okay, well, obviously a lot of people don't agree with you on this, Emma. That
they were choosing to identify with at the beginning.
For 5 whole years?
Yeah,
wow.
Yes.
Lupron.
No, then
it's just kind of funny.
The 6% that were remaining, 3.5% identified as cisgender, 2.5% went back, yes, but they were heavily weighted under the age of 10 years old,
but this is
where they never had any medical intervention. This is how actually trans care actually goes, Tim. 8 to 13 years old, you're put on puberty blockers. Those are entirely reversible. Then after that...
Oh, complete nonsense.
I'm sorry.
That is 100% true.
It's just not true.
That's 100% true.
They're not entirely reversible. To a certain degree, they can be.
Then why are they used in instances where someone has puberty?
Precocious puberty.
That's precocious puberty.
Right, exactly. And there's a carve out for that in the Florida bill, by the way. So cis kids can have it, but trans kids can't.
Because that's
what? It's a completely unrelated thing, Emma. You fucking dipshit. God, she's dumb.
And
the primary label.
16 years
that's
old.
The primary use of the drug.
Okay, but that's not what doctors say. No. Then 16 years old, years old, that's when hormones happen. Very, very, very rarely are there any surgeries under the age of 18. I don't hear you talking about rhinoplasties under the age of 18.
I've talked. We have.
Oh.
Maybe you haven't heard it because you don't watch the show.
Okay.
I've also said child beauty pageants are wrong and they're disgusting. I've also said Hooters is inappropriate for kids, and I said we shouldn't be giving minors any kind of cosmetic surgery. I don't even like tattoos or piercings. So when it comes to
it's quite puritanical of you, Tim. I'm surprised. You have a lot of swords
I don't think
and
children
and stuff in here.
I don't think children should make should be altering their bodies.
But you just said parental rights. So if under 18, parents have to give consent for piercings and tattoos. And
do you think a mom should have the right to remove the salivary glands of her child?
No. Are you for parental rights or not?
See, this is
every right has limits.
What is actually interesting because what you're asking, we've actually talked in a great depth about on Timcast IRL. That
are you for parental rights or not? I just asked.
That question right there leads in two different directions, which is, again, we've addressed. If you watched the show, you'd have heard the statement we've made about it.
Well, I heard you 5 minutes ago say you were for parental rights, and now you're saying you're not.
Where do parents' rights begin and where do they end is strictly a moral question based on the moral frameworks of an individual. If there is someone who goes to a doctor in, say, Saudi Arabia and the doctor prescribes female circumcision, they're going to argue it's the parents' rights. We would argue
another
against
hypothetical.
that.
I'm talking about reality.
It's not really hypothetical because it literally does happen in that part of the world, Emma, you fucking idiot.
Things literally do happen in other countries.
But it wouldn't be.
I'm talking about this country, and I'm talking about parental rights.
A point, right? The point is the idea that parents have a right is limited to what our moral limits are. Meaning, if you morally are okay with a child sex change, then you're going to argue in favor of parents' rights. If I say you shouldn't be able to mandate vaccinations, you'd probably argue against the parents' right, right? Should a school be allowed to mandate vaccines?
It's so obvious, too, that she walked right into it. It's so dumb.
Children.
Yes.
But what about the parents' rights? Are you for parents' rights?
Well, I'm for public health.
She sucks. She sucks so much. Oh, my God.
But you're not for parents' rights. You see, that question leads nowhere.
No, I mean, look, Tim, I've never made parental rights a plank of my own politics. I'm saying this within the...
Yeah, you're trying to call him out and do a stupid little gotcha, but obviously what he's saying is true. Like, it would depend on the issue.
Context of what you just said 5 minutes ago.
And I'm explaining.
Yes,
parental rights.
Right, and you would not be in favor of parental rights, Emma, if the child was trans, but the parents did not want the child to transition. You probably would say, no, the child should be able to do what they want, and the parents are these evil, transphobic, racist, Christian, Christo-fascist, whatever dumb bullshit you would say. That's what you would say, Emma.
Extends to my morality.
So, right, your morality says that you think that trans children and parents, even if they agree with their child and the doctor is supervising this kind of transition, you're essentially saying that you don't believe that they should have the power and ability and that the state should intervene. That sounds like big government to me.
Yeah, I'm not, I don't know if you know who I am.
Well, okay, then there you go. That the state should intervene because you don't believe that parents should and their children.
I mean, obviously, we say that the state should intervene if a child is being abused or neglected by their parents as well, Emma.
They're in agreement.
So at first, my position was, early on, if the doctors are prescribing it and it's the best thing they can do, I think we're looking at, in the past 4 years, about 50,000 or so cases of cross-sex hormones for kids. So be it. Then we started seeing like the Tavistock scandal. We saw Finland, Denmark, Sweden start pulling this. The research coming out showed that it was not particularly effective. And then we also had multiple studies showing that
She just says it's not true. It's not true. Oh, okay.
Resistance rates for those who did not take any, who did not receive intervention was actually upwards of 95%. And then my position became, it probably is the appropriate thing for the legislature to say, we're not going to allow this anymore.
Okay, I just listed the American Journal of Pediatrics. That's incredibly reputable. Incredibly reputable. 94% of children continued care after age. Take a Netherlands study. This is Lancet. 98% continued hormone therapy and follow-up.
After what?
So you... No, but the other one's a 5-year study. This is just a secondary
after
one.
what point?
Well, no, so this is the issue, right? Those studies were based upon whether a child was placed on puberty blockers or not. When a child is placed on puberty blockers, they tend not to desist. When a child is left alone, they tend to desist. So the issue is then... If, according to, 10 prospective follow-up studies from child and adolescents found desistance ranging from 61 to 90%, then the safety of the children would lean towards non-intervention.
I'm Go ahead. You can, again, we should probably agree to look at these kinds of studies before we're going to pull them up for a debate, because what I'm pulling up and what I'm referencing is inherently reputable, and you can find any information that you want on the internet.
But you're allowed to sit there and name these organizations that agree with you. But if somebody else names a country that doesn't agree with those organizations, or a study that doesn't agree with those organizations, that's just not okay. Oh, okay, Emma, sure. That sounds very fair.
Internet. I am with a majority of doctors on this front. That's
a broad statement. I don't know about that.
No. That is actually a fact. That is 100% a fact.
Well, I've seen this movie before. So what's happening is you're referencing detransition under a system where they wouldn't be put on puberty blockers necessarily, and then they would go through the cross-sex hormone. So everybody who would have desisted at the point of puberty, which is what you're referencing, is already excluded from her sample. So, and I don't even think you would disagree with that once they're actually past the point of puberty and they still think they're in the opposite body or whatever, and they go through the process, there's a very low detransition rate. But you're specifically talking about desistance.
Look,
and I remember this because this happened when you argue with the serfs.
This is what it boils down to. I'm not a moralist. I don't have the arrogance to believe that my personal preferences for how my life would be lived should be imposed on other people. I'm trying.
You literally do, though, Emma. You, again, this conversation just proves that you do.
Trying to make
You think that children should be vaccinated regardless of what the parents think. And you also presumably think that a child should be allowed to be trans despite what the parents think, and including up to medication and whatnot, puberty blockers or hormone therapy treatment, whatever.
Argument for a case for, I'm trying to make a case for a broad set of policies that are going to make sure people are as happy as they can possibly be and can live their life to the fullest. So if you want to impose your morality on people, it sounds like fundamentalism. For me, I'm in favor of
a real argument.
But if most
I am having a real argument.
That's not enough.
You just said your morality
here's
is
a study.
I mean, it's silly. Obviously, everybody does that to some extent, Emma. Just make an actual argument for why you're right and he's wrong.
Here's a study that shows desistance rates up to 95%. Hold on. Desistance rates are shown up to 95% with non-intervention. So then we would lean towards non-intervention. And you said you're a fundamentalist. You didn't make an argument.
No, earlier you talked about how your morality is what you want to dictate in terms of this policy.
Wait, you see, this is what I was talking about with Sam.
Okay.
Right? The inability to grasp philosophical concepts. When I explained to you that you are opposed to parental rights because you're in favor of vaccine mandates, right? I don't think you can understand the duality of the statement you're making. Are you in favor of parental rights can go in one of two moral directions? You do have a moral stance.
I wasn't talking about parental rights. I was using that as a way to talk about your statement on parental rights.
Yeah, Emma, you were using it to try to set up Tim in a gotcha, but it backfired on you because you're stupid and you don't even know how to debate, basically.
If you have a moral position on public health
and you want to impose that, then you too would be a fundamentalist and you've made a nonsensical statement. If you want to make an argument about why me using this data is incorrect, I'm all ears. If you want to tell me I'm a fundamentalist.
I haven't seen the data, so I can't.
Well, then don't make an argument about it if you don't know the data.
No, I do know the data. I use the American Journal of Pediatrics. I don't know the data that you just pulled up.
You did not look up desistance rates. You did not look up anything other than what fits your narrative.
Tim, what you just said is that you want your morality to dictate policy.
No, I didn't.
I want people to have freedom to do what they want.
That's just...
Everybody does it to some extent, Emma. I mean, it's just a completely pointless thing to say. Obviously, we think that our version of right and wrong is going to dictate to some extent policy. As individuals, it's going to some extent.
Not true. I said that everyone's view on a question like parental rights is dictated by their morality. You do have one as well. People have a moral framework. You've told me that you're in favor of public health. That is a moral stance. So are you a fundamentalist? Do you want to impose your moral?
No, I talk about politics. I don't talk about things that are so abstract. I talk about
You're in favor of vaccine mandates or not?
Of course.
That's a moral position. Not a scientific one.
No, it is a public health position.
Well, it's sure. Your morality dictates that the government can impose a medication on people against their will.
Because I'm trying to create a society.
That's a moral question.
No, because I'm trying to create.
That's moral.
Sure, I think I am more moral.
But you just said you weren't. You said you were not a moralist.
No, I'm not. I am dealing in politics. And
bro, she's just babbling at this point.
Politics can create outcomes that are moral or immoral. And I'm dealing in the ones that I think will create the most,
so you're
the best outcome. No. Moralism in the way that I was referencing it is one that falls back on notions of fundamentalism and imposing morality that is individual to you on the rest of society. I am talking about creating a society
data that shows
a society that gives people the freedom that they
moralism.
No, that's politics.
You want to create a society that does a works towards a goal of your personal perspective.
What you are talking about is imposing your narrow set of ideas about how society should be, or
based on the scientific research I pulled up.
No.
I literally pulled a study.
No, you want to restrict people's ability to do what they want to do with their bodies. That's what you want to do.
Do you think that people should cut their hands?
I mean, obviously we do that in a lot of different ways, though, Emma. I mean, if somebody is having a manic episode and the police believe that person could hurt themselves, they'll Baker Act them or 5150 them, whatever you want to call it, and they'll try to get them help. Like, we do that in a lot of different ways in our society already. Again, if a parent is not feeding their children or they're abusing or neglecting their children, Child Protective Services will come and take their children away from them to protect the children. Like, we do that all the time in our society. Like, we've always done that to some extent. So what? I mean, I'm just not understanding what this is supposed to prove.
Off.
I don't deal in abstract, ridiculous hypotheticals because I deal in reality. I cover politics.
So you're in favor of female circumcision?
That doesn't happen in the United States.
How much do you want? How much do? No, you're wrong.
There are very small amounts. I am not in favor.
So you're in favor of it?
I wouldn't.
You want to restrict what people do with their own children? You're against parental rights?
That's not the same thing. Is a doctor? You want
to talk about Dearborn, Michigan? I've actually gone there and done the research. I've actually done the boots on the ground journalism in this story. Okay. Yes.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Right. Because female circumcision is a bad thing. We do not want these things to be happening. And even the parents were going to doctors to get it prescribed. There are limits. There's the famous story of the Kennedy. They got the Kennedy got it lobotomized because the doctors prescribed it. Just because there's current scientific research that leans one direction doesn't mean we move absolutely in one direction. What we have here is a very prominent set of studies, which we've referenced on the show numerous times, showing desistance rates for minors who do not receive intervention in terms of affirmation or gender sex change is upwards of 95%, in which case science dictates we do not intervene. If you want to take the 5% chance that we then intervene in these children's lives, and that can result in even one kid being harmed, that sounds like an immoral action.
Now, these are extremely specific hypotheticals that you are maximizing in this current instance. And I am interested in creating a society that is moral, but it's based on outcomes. Not just...
That's what I just pulled up.
Bro, I mean, I could sit there and say, oh, hey, the Muslim population of Michigan has better outcomes with the women being circumcised because they're more likely to get married, they're more likely to have children, they're more likely to be happy because they feel like they're more connected with their religion or some stupid shit like that. Like, I don't care. Like, yeah, I don't give a shit about that. It's wrong to cut off people's body parts. I mean, male circumcision is wrong too. Now, it's not anywhere near as wrong as female circumcision. That's a bunch of bullshit. Nowhere even fucking close. It's way female circumcision is way worse. You can argue these points any which way.
Like, I mean, I can read to you again.
Right, but pull up the American Pediatrics study.
But we're talking about. Can I
pull up the study that reaffirms my position, not the study that reaffirms your position? It's like, okay, Emma.
While you pulled that up, if it is true that prescribing puberty blockers prevents people from hitting that point of puberty where they would decide, and largely they would decide to desist, right, when they hit the point of puberty, would you be in favor of removing that from the gender protocol? Because this only is talking about desistance at the point of puberty. So, like, what he's concerned about is that if you stop people from going through puberty, you stop the changes in their bodies and all that, and then they can't, like, rationally make that choice because they haven't hit that point in their development.
I don't have the kind of, I guess, arrogance, I would say.
I asked you a hypothetical, hypothetically.
Right, but again, this is exactly what reactionary conservatives do.
This is what you do, guys. This is what you do. Number 4, where we on the 4th or 5th time she said that. This is what you do, guys. That's not an argument, Emma. Stop saying the same dumb thing over and over again. You actually disagree with me on things. This is what you guys do.
Red flag.
If you deal with hypotheticals, because when you actually deal with the practical reality and the outcomes that you're dealing with and that you're prescribing onto society, it creates an inherently unjust society.
So as the right-wing conservative Destiny said recently when he was debating the left-wing pro-lifers, it is a definite red flag when somebody is unwilling completely to engage with the hypothetical. If you want to say why the hypothetical doesn't apply, that is totally fine.
No, because I
want
to
to
talk
just
about
say,
reality.
oh, it's a hypothetical, I can't talk about it, as if you don't know what a thought experiment is. It's kind of odd.
Look, I've asked you, we have here, I literally just pulled up detransition Wikipedia. We pulled up this study that shows that without intervention, desistance rates are from 61 to 98%.
And here I have general acceptance of standards of care. The overwhelming weight of medical authority supports treatment of transgender patients with GnRH agonists and cross-sex hormones in appropriate circumstances. Organizations who have formally recognized this include American Academy of Pediatrics, American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, American Academy of Family Physicians, American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, American College of Physicians, American Medical Association, American Pediatric Association, dozens and
Remember
dozens
when doctors said smoking was good for you?
She's just appealing to authority here. These organizations agree with me, therefore I'm right. But obviously, the governments of a variety of European countries disagree with you, Emma. So how do you parse that one out?
You're not citing science. You're citing government approval.
No, I'm not. I am citing
and that's fine.
What does the government have to do with it? These are medical organizations.
Okay, sure. Fair point. You're citing medical organizations.
So this was her little gotcha that people clipped that moment where Tim was like, sure, okay, fair point. And people were like, oh my God, Emma owned Tim Pool on his own show. It was the cringiest thing.
Despite the fact that there have been numerous instances throughout history, in fact, basically all of them, where we've been like, hey, we were wrong about that. Like, maybe we shouldn't drink mercury if you get syphilis. But what I'm referring to specifically is if there is no intervention of a trans child, desistance rates are from 61 to 98%, showing the majority of kids are better off not receiving.
No, look, I mean, you're on detransition Wikipedia. I just listed a list of dozens.
Again, he mentioned desistance, not detransition. This is like very important that we nail down what we're talking about.
Yeah, right. What I'm saying is, if you have a trans child or a child who is suffering from gender identity disorder or dysphoria, and you do nothing, there is a 61 to 98% chance they age out of it and grow up and are happy and fine.
That's made up.
It's literally...
That's made up. Like, I love how she just said, I don't have the arrogance to yada, yada, yada. And then someone points up a study and they're like, yep, that's made up. That's made up.
You're right there. What are you talking about?
On Wikipedia.
At the point of puberty.
No, I pulled up the NIH. You said you can pull up anything. Yeah, so here you go, NIH.gov. Here you go.
That's Wikipedia that is citing the NIH, but yeah, it's made up.
Tim.
Are you happy?
Tim.
NIH.gov.
Deal with what I just said about
medical
the level of medical organizations. You're saying that they're all wrong and that you have some sort of like special knowledge that you can supersede their expertise.
No, bro. God damn, Emma, you're dumb. Like, obviously, these are organizations that are run by people who may be impartial about this issue. That's all that he's saying. I mean, these organizations can get things wrong. Obviously, the science is being updated as new studies come out and more people are looking at newer things. Just because they agree with this today doesn't mean that they're going to agree with it tomorrow, Emma.
No, he's not. You're cherry picking American organizations.
And you're making the appeal to authority.
I just first of all, I just cited one from the Netherlands, but American Academy of Pediatrics, American Academy of Child and
Appeal to authority. Keep
going. I mean,
but not even that.
But I'm not a medical authority, and neither are you. So why wouldn't you appeal to the authority? All I can do is point to a study and say, "Wow, if this study is true, I'm opposed to this." Right.
But there's also all these European organizations that are getting rid of this specific practice that he's focusing on, which is the puberty blockers. And like, for some reason, they're not on your list.
No, we are properly assessing when intervention is appropriate here. I mean, it's pretty obvious.
But why would they suspend in these better healthcare systems in Europe? Why would they suspend this specific practice that we're arguing about?
I mean, you listed Sweden and Finland. They've just elected far-right governments. But
well, for starters, they're not really far-right. They're center-right governments. And in part, they have been elected because of the world has gone crazy about some of these particular issues. Like, certain things like this have scared people because of how insane it is.
I mean,
but anyway, like, again, this is what I'm interested in talking about in terms of politics. I want to create a more equitable society for people. We should have socialized healthcare, Medicare for all. You should talk about that more on your program. You say you're in favor of it. I haven't really seen. I haven't seen much.
When you got
angry Emma Vigeland noises, bro, you obviously don't watch this fucking show, Emma. Like, come on.
Guys cherry pick stuff to talk about
we
music
should talk
or
about
whatever.
ending child poverty. I mean, it's funny. You should talk about ending child poverty.
But you could have talked about my position on universal healthcare any one of these times. You never do. Why? It's not going to get traffic for you.
Well, I mean, you don't clip anything about universal healthcare. You should focus more on it, and then we would focus on it.
Because like
what we try to do
when are we going to be like, for no reason, let's just make a universal healthcare thing?
What we try to do in real time is correct right-wing lies, whether it's you or Dave Rubin or Steven Crowder. We do talk about abortion a lot.
Yeah.
We do.
What's my abortion position?
I'm not sure.
Why?
Yeah, Emma, you totally watch the show all the time.
You've not watched any of the 8,000 segments we've done on it?
I do know that you called that 10-year-old case a hoax, a political hoax, if you want to
political maneuvers around.
Yeah, he already explained to you why what you're saying about that story is stupid, Emma. Are you just not paying attention?
And again, Tim, like the reality is I don't like, you've been perfectly nice to me here. I don't really care about you personally. I care when you say things that are harmful and wrong. What? Like the hoax statement about
that was God damn, girl, move on. Move to another fucking point. She can't even think of another point, so she's just repeating the same dumb shit that she's already said.
Wrong. That was an opinion.
It was wrong. It was completely...
there's no point. Tim could sit there and explain every detail about why he said what he said about this and what she's not understanding about his position about that story. And she will just go back to, you lied. You said it was a hoax. You got it wrong. Like, she's just saying the same dumb shit over and over again.
Factually inaccurate.
It's not factually accurate.
You called it a hoax because you know that your audience is going to feed into it. And then you parse it later so you have plausible deniability about it.
But specifically what I said was...
Yeah.
And we talk about it in depth. I think the issue is just you don't watch the show. To be fair, I don't watch Majority Report.
But to be fair, nobody does.
If like I'm not gonna come out here and be like, you said this one time, this one thing. I've not watched the show, so I don't know exactly what you're talking about. But I said, yeah, the idea that you would take a tragic circumstance like this and then create a political story, put it out to the super PACs to try and change laws, that's a hoax.
Yeah. Well, okay. Yeah. How about the fact that you called the
grooming event
shooter in the neo-Nazi Texas shooter who watched your program, you called that a false flag.
Because you don't even know anything about that story.
I do.
It was four clips of the episode, and you can see in the images he wasn't even subscribed to the channel.
Yeah, but he watched your show.
No.
She's so fucking insufferably stupid. I cannot stand her, dude. It is hilarious how dumb she is. He had 4 screenshots on his phone from one episode of the show, and he wasn't even subscribed to the channel. And her response to that is, yeah, but she watched your show. What an absolute fucking buffoon. Absolute buffoon.
No, he didn't. He watched one guy.
Yeah, have you ever went to those time codes? He was highlighting specific, and I won't...
Bro, there is no way Emma actually did any real research into this story. Who are you fucking kidding, Sean? You're giving these people way too much fucking credit.
Name the guest from the guest.
But he did watch your show.
It was Elijah Schaefer.
Oh,
like this
but he did watch your show, Tim. He did watch the show. Hey, Tim, did I mention he watched the show? He did watch the show, Tim.
So you're saying he watched an episode?
Sure. But do you understand why? On. And he posted about it.
Did he ever watch Sesame Street, though, Emma? I think Sesame Street might be contributing to mass murder. That could be a thing, Emma.
Who was that one guy who watched Majority Report and then commented on what Sam did?
Why do you think that no, this was a neo-Nazi. Why do you think your content appeals to neo-Nazis?
Why do you think your content appeals to neo-Nazis? One time, the guy watched one part of one episode of his show, and her response is, why do you think that your content appeals to neo-Nazis? Emma, what the fuck is wrong with your brain, you insane person?
Are you kidding me right now?
No, I'm just wondering why you think that.
I'm wondering why you think that. I'm wondering why a mentally deranged person is on Tim Pool's show right now. That's what I want to know.
Okay, I'm gonna do something I don't normally do, but that was an egregious over-the-line statement where I don't know if you're intentionally trying to just generate clips that are nonsensical or you're just really that stupid.
Oh, man.
The idea that because a Nazi watched your show appeals to Nazis is like, look, if you want to have a real conversation, we have a real conversation. If you want to come up here and do exactly what the majority, you want to do what the Majority Report does and exactly why Sam isn't welcome on my and many other shows, feel free to do it. And I'm willing to have you on here. Did you know that, like, I don't know about you specifically, but this is exactly why people don't like your show, okay?
I think people like our show.
Yeah, maybe ask why some of these higher profile personalities and networks won't have Sam on anymore. And he can cry.
They're afraid of him. They're afraid of Sam, yeah. They're afraid of Sam Cedar. Yep, you got it. You got it, Emma, sure.
Oh, they're afraid of him. How about it's because you just claimed that my show appeals to Nazis? Which it clearly doesn't. Show. Because this show is predominantly like moderate libertarian leaning types.
No, you say that, and that you say that because you're trying to draw a line and make the really far right people that watch your show feel like their positions are.
Bro, could you imagine just thinking that Tim Pool's show appeals to far right wingers? How would you ever fucking come to that conclusion? You have to be a disingenuous person to ever come to that conclusion. That is just so fucking stupid.
A little bit more close to the mainstream than they actually are.
Okay, let's say for
So you called it a false flag, and then when you were proven wrong the next day, you said you thought it was funny.
Called what a false flag?
You called the claims that the neo-Nazi shooter watched your show a false flag.
I don't know if I said that. That sounds awfully specific.
I don't have the exact quote in front of me, Tim. But
so you don't know what I said? Where did
yes,
you
I do.
That?
I would listen to you.
Did you say something like, it sounds like, I said, it sounds like a psyop to have this profile appear one day after the shooting where it's got like a bunch of screenshots on it or something?
Sure.
I mean, to be fair, that's kind of like the same thing, Tim. I mean, to be fair, I don't want to take Emma's side too much during this discussion, but, you know, that does kind of sound the same thing.
It really does sound to me like someone told you to say things and you don't know what you're referencing.
I'm not shocked that that is the only way that you're going to try to react to this.
I'm not shocked that's your way of getting out of this, Tim.
to react to what? Okay, no, this is fairly obvious. So I'm willing to bet Sam was like, hey, ask him about this. And
100%. 100% Tim is right about that. Sam gave her a list of things to bring up on this show. This is like the 10 Sam Cedar gotcha moments. 100%. This is all from Sam.
Say these exact things.
No, I came up with,
come up with original thoughts.
It is my original thought.
So no, it isn't. It's some guy posts a screenshot of one episode of a show he's not subscribed to, and you think that's an attack vector for something political, but it's a personal snipe that has no bearing on anything.
I would have asked her if she thought that the Christchurch shooter referencing PewDiePie would hold PewDiePie being somehow liable for the shooting in some regard, because, I mean, obviously what she's saying is just silly and absurd.
The arguments we've made the entire show.
I disagree.
Yes.
You disagree with what? What? Elaborate.
I disagree that it has no bearing on what you've said throughout your entire show.
Like what? What did I say?
This was
come on.
the claim that you made.
Let's hear it.
I believe that your program appeals to a right-wing audience, and there's a reason that the neo-Nazi shooter watched your program.
And how do you know he watched the program?
Yeah, what would the reason be? I don't get it. Like, I mean, what would it even be? I mean, the shooter didn't target a particular demographic. I mean, that shooter just shot indiscriminately and killed random people. It wasn't as if he targeted a particular religious or racial demographic. So the motivation behind the shooter is basically, I don't think anybody really knows what the motivations were. But it certainly doesn't have anything to do with like a political ideology necessarily, because the guy didn't target a political demographic or a religious demographic or a racial demographic. So, like, what's your point?
Because he posted about it.
What did he post?
Tim.
What did he post?
He posted parts of an interview that you did.
No, he didn't.
No, he didn't post them. They were found on his phone, Emma, you dipshit. And they were just screenshots from one episode.
You're wrong.
He had 4 screenshots on his phone from
You don't even know what you're talking about.
Sean knows more about it than you do, and you brought it up.
And all you can do is laugh and say,
no, it's because you get specific to obscure
some
the fact.
guy
You
posted one thing one time, and that's the only argument you have.
Did you go to the time codes that were in that episode? Because I did. I ran this down. And one of them was a clip of Elijah Schaffer. And like weirdly for this like neo-Nazi Hispanic shooter, it's Elijah saying that we shouldn't be emphasizing race specifically. No, he's a neo-Nazi Hispanic shooter.
Right, but Tim called it a false flag and then corrected himself the next day and then said he thought it was funny after a mass shooting.
I mean, who cares? Who cares? Even if Tim did that, so what? Who cares?
I think that someone told you to say this and you don't actually know what you're talking about.
I think that it's not shocking that you think that based on my gender.
Okay, you're not saying anything.
Yeah, you're not saying anything here. You're just kind of babbling.
But like I screen grab because I do YouTube clips, so I will screen grab a time code so I know where to go later. So like when I saw that, I knew, or I had a feeling, because obviously he's dead. So, or was he captured or was he killed?
I think he was killed.
Yeah, so he's dead, so he can't tell us. But like, I think people screenshot, because this is why I do it, and you can find them in my phone, moments in things so that they can go back and reference that clip. And I ran down both of those time codes. One.
I get it, but look, man, this is the majority.
This is kind of annoying. Like, Tim is interrupting Sean here, and Sean's about to make a point that would defend Tim. He's just too stupid to realize it.
Report
Yeah, but it is a nasty smear. Like you're doing it on purpose.
And it's not a political statement. It's not a political argument.
You're like, he watched an episode of her show. I'm sorry, of his show. Like that's
there was that one guy who posted Sam Cedar a whole bunch. Remember the guy who killed all those people at the bar in Ohio?
I don't remember that case specifically.
Why did that guy watch Sam Cedar so much? Why do you guys appeal to mass shooters?
Sean is trying to bring up Gavin Long here, and Tim continues to interrupt him. I think he does it like 3 or 4 times before Sean can finally get it out.
Why do mass shooters
There's a qualitative
talk about
difference.
Sam Cedar being so inspirational to them?
Why did Gavin Long?
Why is Emma Vigeland inspiring mass shooters?
Why did Gavin Long?
Why are you okay with porn being shown to children? Look, if you want to play a game of nonsense statements for political brownie points, feel free to do so. But I'll say it again.
Tim, I didn't mean to upset you.
Shitlibs love to do this, particularly the women love to do this. They do this thing where they deliberately upset you, and then they basically act like, "Oh, I don't know why you're so triggered over this. I didn't mean to trigger you. Oh, did I strike a nerve? Oh, whoopsie. Oh, tee-hee. You're acting very feminine right now, being all emotional, blah, 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 this kind of thing." It's very performative and very cringe.
This is exactly why Sam is not welcome on my show. But it's not something that I just one day was like, you know what? No, it's because I had serious conversations with networks and other high-profile individuals. And I love...
Can you name the high-profile individuals?
That's their business. But I absolutely love how the response is, they're scared of Sam. It's like, no, they despise him. He's a bad faith actor who does exactly what you just did. We're having
100%. Yes, 100%. Just like the thing with Steven Crowder over that COVID debate with Ethan Klein, snake in the grass kind of behavior. He's just such a fucking slimy, sleazy person.
Conversation about scientific research, data, my position on what I like about DeSantis, and then you go, your show's for neo-Nazis. It's like, okay, dude, are you stupid?
The look on his face cracks me up.
I'm just stating facts.
Have you ever?
Okay, this is like
I'm just stating facts.
Low brow. This is why you guys have 170 Dave Rubin videos. Do you think the average person cares about Dave Rubin?
No,
but you guys get clicks by doing it.
It's
hey,
fun.
How about you guys run a video about how Tim Pool got into an argument with a pro-lifer about how he's in favor of pro-choice policy? You didn't run that, did you? Because you guys are grifters. This is what you do. I can invite you on for a real conversation, and what do? Your show's for neo-Nazis.
Oh, so good.
Nazis. This is why you guys don't get invited places, because you're not having real conversations.
I don't really care about getting invited places.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, she's full of shit. Completely fucking full of shit.
So go live in your grifter echo chamber where you guys can play songs with bad audio and then say, whoopsie.
Whoopsie. Yeah, he's a little butthurt about the song. It's like, I put a lot of effort in that song, bitch, and you did me dirty, okay?
I'm sorry, that audio thing really upset you.
Wait, have you ever covered
when you run audio that sounds bad to make a nonsensical video where you're like, Tim Pool sounds like Nickelback. It's like, what you're doing is just trying to generate rage drama.
Nickelback's also the wrong band, but yes, he is correct about this part. This is just like bottom feeding, bottom of the barrel, e-celeb drama garbage. That's what most of what Sam Cedar is known for, and the Majority Report.
It is internet blood sports level garbage. It doesn't answer any questions about the questions of pro-life and pro-choice, progressive tax policy. It doesn't answer questions about how we're going to protect or we're going to help kids. All it does is drum up support from your base so they can hoot and holler and give you clicks. Then you complain, we can't get any advertisers. Maybe it's because you make lowbrow drama garbage.
No, I mean, the first hour of our program is the one that's free.
For neo-Nazis, you mean? The one where that mass shooter watched Majority Report? Is that what you're talking about?
The first hour of our program.
She has no fucking clue what you're talking about, bro. No clue.
And we'll usually have Social Security and Medicare
I can't remember that
kind of discussions, or we'll essentially talk
I assume he's talking about the Dayton, Ohio shooter would be my guess.
To an expert on, say, policy in Latin America, that kind of thing. The stuff that's behind the paywall and then gets clipped is stuff where we respond to right-wingers. We want to get into the...
He got really mad when I said that he got kicked off of Bob's Burgers.
Oh, no, that's funny. He was joking, right? He was being sarcastic.
I didn't watch the clip. I just know that.
Yeah, it was hilarious. He first of all, the creator is one of his best friends. Sam's like...
Sam came to me and said he was upset that they kicked him up. They were removing his role from the show.
I think he was joking.
but used to be at TYT, and Gavin Long, who was the
Finally, Sean gets to say the piece about Gavin Long. Holy fuck.
Baton Rouge shooter, watched, reposted, and did reactions to Young Turk's videos. A lot of them were straight misinformation. There was one in particular where they were going after a cop who slammed a woman, which, by the way, the cop acted inappropriately, but they wildly speculated that it was a black woman. It turned out to be a white woman. And there was a call in the video of like, what do you do if you see a pregnant black woman being assaulted by a cop? Gavin Long said he's going to step up. You can watch these videos; they're available online. And he shot 4 cops.
Yeah, I mean, that wasn't my comment.
I didn't say. No, hold on.
Yeah, but like that wasn't me though, so it doesn't matter.
Let's say it was your commentary, but you're saying screenshots on this guy's phone. Big problem. I got to bring it up right here. But have you ever covered at all what inspired Gavin Long?
Because
he killed 4 police officers.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. That wasn't my coverage, so I don't.
Yeah, I don't know anything about anything other than Tim Pool's bad. That's all I know. I just know Tim Pool bad, Dave Rubin bad. So now you're talking about an unrelated thing. I don't know anything about that. Sorry.
No, I was based in
What
New
about
York.
the guy in Dallas? Remember him?
That was a different shooting.
Sam,
No, I know.
I'm sorry. I
Right.
really didn't mean to trigger you. I'm sorry.
See, that's just goading right there. That's just 100% goading. The other thing's debatable, but that was just, I didn't mean to trigger you. She's trying to get an emotional reaction out of him to get this clippable moment.
But I'm just curious where your standards are. Like, have you gone
Look at
after
this.
the host on the Young Turks for that one?
Clip farming. Is that what you're doing?
Yes, 100%. She's just like Sam. Like these people are just such sleazeballs.
I don't know what you mean.
I don't know what you're talking about. What? I don't. Did I do something? I don't even know what's going on right now. I'm just this dewy-eyed innocent person. I don't know anything.
Okay, your demeanor changes before the show to all of a sudden now you're going, what do you mean? I'm so sorry I triggered you. Oh, geez.
Well, I mean,
get it. You guys
I'm
are
just-
100%. Tim is correct.
going to make clips.
I'm
You
trying
guys
to
are
do-
lowbrow grifter drama garbage.
I'm trying to
You want
just
to talk
speak
about the
in a
merits of
calming
policy?
tone, so maybe that it calms you down a little bit.
You want to talk
You're acting. You're doing a performance is what you're doing.
about policy, or do you want to just insult people?
I would love to talk about policy.
So continue, Sean.
Yeah. So if screenshots, which are of clips that weren't even him speaking, is Tim Pool inspiring the shooter, then how come you've like never done this commentary at a place you used to work at of direct inspiration? Like he saw a clip, cuts to himself saying, "I'm going to step up because I'm the real one."
I've never heard of this, so.
Oh, that's
not?
interesting that you never heard of
Well,
that.
so it happened.
I don't think that there's a single thing that's less surprising to me than Emma Vigeland not knowing about that. Why in the world will that ever enter her left-wing echo chamber? Of course it wouldn't. So I'm not surprised.
Why do you think it is that your former program appealed to mass shooters so much?
I cover right-wingers, and I know that right
Oh my God, unbearable.
terrorism in this country dwarfs any kind of left-wing terrorism by like a 9-to-1 figure.
What does that do
I
with
might be
ISIS?
underestimating. Because I cover the real threat in this country, which is right-wing terrorism.
Sure. So I'll ask again, I guess. Like, why do you think it is this mass shooter was inspired by your former program?
I would have to look into it to make a smarter
Do you feel
comment
bad
on
that he
it.
was inspired directly and admitted he was?
Sure. I mean, it's not.
Do you take responsibility?
It wasn't even my program. I worked there, but yeah.
So you were providing material support. Wow. You see
I don't know if she was there at the time. To be fair to you,
I don't think I was.
But I will say,
You wouldn't know anyway because you don't know anything about this, Emma.
it is interesting because the Young Turks did cover this shooting. And even though, again, reacted specifically to Young Turks videos covering the cops very poorly, propaganda inspired him to commit this violence, in my opinion.
If you want to talk about the Unturks,
hold on.
you should talk to them.
I would
Yeah.
love to at some point in my life. But so he does this, but the Young Turks coverage of it called him just a sovereign citizen. So this would be categorized as that right-wing terrorism, even though he was
is the thing, right?
inspired by a left-wing news organization, specifically left-wing figures.
I'll do a semi-segue.
That was actually a really good point as well. Like that probably would be considered right-wing terrorism because he would be considered a sovereign citizen, even though this was a black guy who was upset about the justice system and police brutality and everything, who essentially was propagandized and radicalized by organizations like the Young Turks that basically spread anti-cop and anti-white propaganda. Essentially, that's all the Young Turks does. So yeah, this is a great point by Sean.
Thanks so much for hanging out, everybody. I hope it was to you exactly what you thought it was going to be. And now both the left and the right can make clips about who owned whom and when. Thanks for hanging out,
Perfect.
and we'll see you all next time.
Just reading the comments having me cracking up a little bit. Tim needs to never miss an opportunity to shut the fuck up. Let AJW do the heavy lifting. He's more qualified to do it. Yeah, again, like that's obvious too. I mean, obviously, like Tim should have just been quiet. This is funny. You said there would be a race war. When did I say that? I'm not sure. It's like, yeah, there was a lot of that during this debate. You said this thing. What did I say exactly? Oh, I don't know. It's the funniest shit ever. It's like she came with these like points, these talking points, and she just couldn't even defend the thing that she brought to the debate. You know, it's just laughable to me. What an absolute fucking clown. This one, when I first watched it, was one of my favorites because Emma was so incredibly bad faith and obnoxious. You know, it's just it's so hilarious to me.